I'm with Newton, and I want to welcome back Ron Diehl to Self Tech. Ron is a therapist, author, speaker who has basically focused all of his attention in his career on helping step families be everything they can be. Today, we are going to be looking at hurdles that every step family must jump if they are going to have the family that they so deeply desire. So welcome, Ron Diehl. Ron Diehl, thanks again for coming and joining with us today. Another video for Self Tech.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to have you come on as an expert for step families. And you have done a lot of work on this. Inform our listeners a little bit about the work that you have done, how you work with step families. I'm also interested in how you decided to go in this direction.
Well, it's hard to believe now, but for about 3 decades, I've been working with step families in a clinical setting as a therapist, but also in ministry settings and educational settings, doing prevention and enrichment for step family couple relationships. I work with a couple of organizations. One of them is called Family Life. It's a large marriage and family international ministry, and I run a division of that called Family Life Blended. And I also have my own label called Smart Step Families. SmartStepFamilies.com will tie people into the largest collection, if I could say that, in the world of podcasts, videos, online resources, books, study guides, curriculum that's available for anybody, anywhere.
I'll have that link for you, by the way, at the end of this for sure, Ron.
Yeah. So been working in therapy with step families for a long time, but really specialize in step family enrichment and helping blended family couples get ready for the wedding and life after the wedding.
So one of the things that we know as we deal with step families, and I've noticed that sometimes, Ron, step families and blended families, that term is in sort of both ways. And I know that at one time you kind of stayed away from the idea of blended family. Where do you stand on that right now?
Yeah, terms are terms, and people sort of identify and connect with different terms. So step family used to be the predominant term in the US. There's a lot of academics that say, well, you should never use the term blended family because step families really don't ever blend. That's kind of a misnomer. We can talk about expectations here in a minute. It does set people up with a high expectation, but I'm kind of like, well, blended family is the predominant term now, but that's only true in the US, all right? Around the world, in Australia and UK and New Zealand and Africa, step family is by far the predominant term. In the United States military, step family is the term. They don't ever use blended family because blended family means a biracial couple. That's also true in southeast parts of the United States. If you're in Georgia or Alabama or Mississippi, even Arkansas, where I live, many people hear blended family and they think biracial. So the terms, unfortunately, are not really clear. So I make a practice of using both of them. They're kind of interchangeable, but they definitely carry different meaning for different people.
How about that? I did not know that information. So there are a number of hurdles that step families have to go over. Help us understand what some of those hurdles are, Ron.
Yeah, one of them is the expectations that people just carry in.
Expectations are killers.
They can be just tremendous ones. Even the term blended family carries the idea that we're going to all blend. And if you have that expectation, then what does that add up to in your mind? Well, that adds up to my 3 stepchildren are going to love me just like my 2 biological children do. And, you know, that creates this huge expectation in a step parent's heart, for example. And of course, you want it to happen quickly. You wouldn't have gotten married if you thought you were going to necessarily have some struggle building that relationship. But what if 2 of your stepchildren do come around and really like you and are open to you, and that 3rd one doesn't? Does that mean you're not a blended family? Well, see, all of a sudden, you're now grading yourself in such a way that you feel like you're a failure as a family. And that just creates disappointment and discouragement and blame. You know, who am I going to blame? I'm going to blame the kid. I'm going to blame my spouse because their kid is not accepting me. All of a sudden, it creates conflict. Another one of those expectations, Wib, is that love will happen quickly. You and I have come to love each other as husband and wife. Certainly the kids are going to come around pretty fast. Well, on average, blended families need somewhere between 5 to 7 years to really find their family fit, what I like to call familyness. Coupleness comes pretty quickly, usually even before you get married. Familyness comes a whole lot later. And
Especially
when
depending
people
upon
have
the
an
age of the children, right?
yes, it's exactly right. Another expectation is that forming a blended family repairs or restores what you lost.
Mm,
I want to camp out on this one just for a second because I think this one is really insidious. It's understandable that a parent would say, okay, I'm in my 50s and my spouse dies. And gosh, I didn't see that coming. And 2 years, 3 years, 4 years go by and you find another person, you fall in love and you're like, you've got a second chance on life. You still got kids in the home and you want to help your young adult kids kind of move on, whatever that scenario is. The bottom line hope is what was torn away from us, we're now putting back together again.
mm.
But that's not what happens. You're not creating a new biological family. You're creating a step family. There are different dynamics. There are different types of relationships. The bonding process between each individual takes time. It's one thing with one child, another thing with another child. And all of that doesn't repair or restore what was lost. As a matter of fact, you have to carry your loss into the new family and keep grieving it. Nothing gets fixed. You've just created a new thing. And you have to know how to run that new thing, how to operate, how to live that new thing. I think that is one of the things that keeps people constantly comparing themselves to, wow, we never had this struggle in the first marriage. I never had this argument. We never had this parenting disagreement. Well, you're a different kind of family now. In other words, stop comparing yourself to what was and figure out what is and how to live it best.
You've said before that step family, becoming a step family, or step families develop out of loss. Both parties usually have lost something,
Right.
A broken relationship that led to this one, a death, something like that. And so to grieve that, uh, can you grieve while also developing a new step family?
Well, you have to, but here's the thing. Loss restrains your bonding.
Oh, wow.
It's always below the surface and it just is kind of there. Let me give you an example. A child who says, "You're not my dad. I don't have to do what you say." Right? Stepchild to stepdad. "You're not my dad. I don't have to do what you say."
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that child is telling you they do not want to go clean the room or clean up the kitchen. Yes, they're telling you that. And they're telling you about their sadness. That child is inherently saying, I wish my dad were here.
Yeah.
He's not. By death, by divorce, by whatever breakup between my parents, whatever the scenario is, he's not here. And I'm having to deal with you. And dealing with you reminds me that he's not here. So you know what? I'm not happy. And I don't want to clean the kitchen. So you kind of have a convergence of a lot of things going on. But deep within that moment is a child who's sad. If you don't acknowledge that, then the stepdad is like, your kid. Now he's going to his wife. Your kid, bad attitude. You got to fix that. What is going on? I don't deserve this. Disrespect. Some of that's true. And at the same time, you've got a really sad, grieving child who needs somebody to, at some point, yeah, I think there's a dual combination here. Yes, there's a message to the child that needs to come. Hey, look, you don't talk to him that way.
Right.
And there's an opportunity for you to go, you miss your dad, don't you? Tell me about that. It's been a long time since you guys have talked. What's going on? Tell me about your heart. To step inside that space and help the child not feel alone in it. Because if that grief doesn't get processed well, they probably will stay with a wall between them and their new step parent. But the odd thing is, if imagine a stepdad in that scenario who could come around behind the wall.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Imagine that guy. I mean, how admirable is that? You're right. I'm not your dad. However, everybody has to do their job around here, and your job is cleaning the kitchen. So I'm going to let you get to it. By the way, I've noticed, I got to just say, I'm not your dad. and I imagine you miss him. And if I were you, I'd be really upset that I'm here right now telling you to clean the kitchen. I get it. I'm sorry. I understand. If you ever want to talk about that, let me know. Now, the child may never open up to the stepdad about it, but he has just acknowledged something deep within them and said to them, I care about you. That actually makes him attractive to a child who doesn't know what to do with him at this point in time. So you can just begin to see, loss is that undercurrent that's always right there under the surface. And you have to acknowledge it. You have to deal with it as best you can.
Ron, what the in our previous discussion, for those listeners, we had another video that we did on humility. And this really comes into play there, because in order for the non-biological parent to be able to do that kind of work, they have to really be walking in their truth. They have to have a really strong sense of who they are, regardless of what their child is doing, or those non-biological children are doing. And I see that some of that is just some personal work that non-biological parent needs to do. And of course, part of that is just being humble in the process. I've always thought that what a great position to be in, though, for the non-biological parent is whenever their first part of what they're supposed to do is just really develop a relationship with these children. And if they can do that, how that just opens up this opportunity to talk and to nurture and help these other people heal that are in their home. But you can't do that if what you're doing is you're just reacting out of your own pain.
Right.
So what other obstacles we got? How about another hurdle? This idea of positioning the marriage to lead. What is that?
This one's really critical. The expectations and positioning the marriage to lead the family are really important. And by the way, I've written 9 books on this subject. There's a lot of hurdles that we could spend time talking about.
There's not just 2.
There's not just 2, but these are 2 that are really common among different types of blended family situations. So let's talk about this. Positioning the marriage. Just think about it from a historical standpoint. If the narrative of pretty much every blended family is something about there was a family of some sort together, married, not married, whatever the case, have a child together, then something happens by death or by divorce. One of the parents is now out of the home, maybe deceased, but living in another scenario, living elsewhere. And now it's a single parent home. When that happens, you kind of shift away from, all right, 2 parents raising children to 1 parent raising children. There's a dramatic shift in the family and how they function and work. And it used to be that the marriage kind of led parenting and the family, but now the marriage is gone. So what now is the family centered around? The parent and their children. Like all of a sudden at night, watching TV and eating pizza and movies on Friday night, it's mom and her kids all sitting together. Like that's kind of a picture of how the family repositions around parent and child relationship. Now, fast forward to blended family. Step parent enters the picture. All of a sudden we have a couple again. But the kids and mom are used to sitting on the couch together, making decisions together, watching movies together, doing life together, nurturing one another, caring for each other, and being a unit. But now we got this guy going, well, wait a minute. Don't I get to help with parenting? Don't you and I make money decisions and then tell the kids? Like, I should be sitting next to you on the couch watching movies and eating pizza. They keep stepping into my place. So that's a picture of, you're right. We have a whole new transition to make. We got to transition to marriage, leading parenting, and kids respecting marriage. Now they have a love relationship and respect for mom, but they don't have a love respect relationship for mom and stepdad as a unit.
Right.
So that's the piece we've got to establish. Now, here's the trick. If a step parent, in this case, a stepdad, is the one who says, all right, we're in charge, respect me. And he really doesn't have the leverage to make this change happen. It's mom. It's mom who has to say to her 5-year-old, hey, you and I, we'll get some couch time tomorrow morning. But right now, he's sitting next to me while we watch the movie.
Yes.
And by the way, how would you expect 5-year-old to react?
Probably throw a fit.
Weeping and gnashing of teeth,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why? Because the world is falling apart. Because, well, to that child, it is. It's another change. It's another thing I don't get to control. It's another moment where I feel pushed to the side. And let's just face it, there's a lot of those moments for children going through the hard transition of family divided, fractured, single parent. Here's another one. So of course he has emotion and reacts. He's got pain in this moment, taps into his pain cycle, and he shows it by getting angry or throwing a fit or whatever it might be. And mom is really tempted to cater to that, to give into that, and she can't. She's got to say, hey, look, come here, give me a hug. It'll be okay. Tomorrow morning, you and I, just the two of us, we're going to spend some time together playing building blocks. But right now, it's movie time, and he's sitting right here next to me. She's got to take charge of that to place her husband and their usness in the place of leading and protecting and guiding the family. If they don't do that, it becomes nearly impossible for the kids to respect him. One story, and then I'll close. I was talking with a coworker one day, getting to know him, new guy, didn't know him very well. Tell me about your life. He says, oh, I hear you do blended ministry stuff. And I'm like, yes, that's what I do. He goes, you know, I grew up in a blended family, had a great stepdad, came into my life when I was 5. And he says this, Webb, just like this. He says, I loved him. I called him dad from day one. I really, enjoyed him being in my life. And then he pauses and he says, but I never respected him. And I was like, whoa, you gave me a little whiplash there. Like you were going down one way and you just took a hard turn. Like, what's that about? And he goes, well, my mom made it really clear after she married him. She told all of us, if he ever does anything that, somehow I don't like, I'll take you and we'll leave.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
She made it very clear. You guys sit on the couch with me. He's sitting over there somewhere. I don't respect him. You don't have to respect him.
Wow.
You guys will win. It'll be us all the time, no matter what. This marriage is really just an add-on. And he heard the message loud and clear, and he never respected his stepdad.
Right.
You can't do that and expect the family to come together as a unit.
Lots of work for stepfamilies to go through. And I know that most of them go through it with blinders on. They don't know what they're stepping into. There's landmines. I really appreciate the resources that you've developed, Ron. I really encourage people to pick up your books. How many you have now? 9, 10, 12?
Yeah, number 9 comes out later this year. But here's the thing I would leave people with. There's a lot of hope. It used to be the biggest complaint I got from people was, where are all the resources, practical resources to help us do life? And it was true. There wasn't any. Yeah. But now that's not true anymore. Not true anymore. Online videos. I'm teaching a virtual class right now. We have whole curriculum that are available online in addition to the 9 books. I have a podcast where we take a deep dive on big topics for blended families on a regular basis. It's out there. Just go find it.
Good. Thanks, Ron. SmartStepFamilies.com. That's great. Thanks again, Ron, for being with us.
Thank you.
I want to thank Ron Diehl again for coming and being with us today. If you are a step family and you have not looked at his website, SmartStepFamilies.com, I encourage you to rush and do so as soon as possible. A wealth of information designed just to help you as a step family become successful. Ron Diehl did other videos with Self-Tech. One is the humility in marriage, an essential element that is needed in any successful and happy marriage. The other is the 4 steps in healthy blended families. So if you are unaware of the 4 steps, I encourage you to download the Self-Tech app and also look at some available videos that we have. A better self, a better world. Self-Tech.